Okay, so what we have here is, so I'm starting a new PC build, PC, personal computer, and I just want to make that distinction. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the various components. I won't show the installation of them, but what I'll do is I'll show the final product, but I'll show the separate components. So first I'm going to do is kind of do a review, go over the Corsair. This is the power supply I've chosen. This one is what's called a semi-modular. It is modular, but there are still components that, as you can sort of see here, the actual main connection from the power supply to the motherboard is not removable, but as soon as I open it up, we'll see. Definitely like Corsair. One thing that kind of keeps taking me back to them is the quality of their products, and when they have rebates, they are always on the ball with them. I know I've heard other people talk about various other manufacturers they've had bad experience. I maybe been lucky or fortunate enough to never actually have a bad experience with any rebates, but definitely Corsair is very prompt with their rebates, so it is definitely always bringing me back to them. So upon opening it, I have the warranty guide, safety information. We could read those later, or if you've ever read one, the warranty guide's is somewhat self-explanatory, various languages. The information safety is kind of general guidelines, mostly this is electrical shock hazard, here's what to do, what not to do. If you've never read through either of those, I'd recommend it, because there may be things there that would surprise you of what you shouldn't do with a power supply, even though other people say they do it themselves or recommend doing it. I would advise against that. This is the 3-prong connector. I've got like a box of these just laying all over the place from the different builds that I've done. Zip ties for tying down some of the cabling to the computer case. And when I actually do show the final computer case, I'll go through that and list some of the specs on it. In terms of the case itself, because I'll just go through over the individual internal components separately. Here's all the modular. Sorry about the extra noise. I should just put that down. So those are the modular cables. And try to make a little sense of this. Clean this up a bit. And here is the actual power supply with the motherboard connector. So let me just untie this here. So silica, never eat that. And so here is the 24 plus 4 pin connector, right? So 20 because of the old standard, the plus 4, so now it's a 24 pin. Almost all modern motherboards, will have this 24 pin connector. Sorry, I was a little off screen there. And that's how you'll connect it. It's very rare you'll come across any board that will just use the 20 pin, but this is there for that reason, to remove it if necessary. And put that back on there. I'm assuming this is the CPU, because this is the only other one. I don't know exactly what this cable is called, but it's the CPU 4 Plus that I've seen it called in other forums and other places, but I actually don't know its official name. So let me just take the bubble wrap off this and briefly just show the modular connection components. So before I get to that, so if you look at power supplies, so the unfortunate thing is, or maybe the fortunate, one thing that you may or may not notice on many cases, and I'll point this out when I actually show the completed build, is previously power supplies were mounted at the top of cases, which made these vents that would pull air in and essentially kind of blow it out that way very useful. However, now most cases are bottom mounted power supply, at least the one that I'm building with this, and it still does that, but it no longer helps with if you're standing in the case on end, the heat that rises in the case is no longer pulled in by the power supply and blown out. But if you carefully look at this, you'll notice that this is actually designed to be a bottom mounted power supply, because you have no vents here. There is no vent, so it's already giving you there is nothing to pull air in and exhaust it out. So essentially it's only exhausting its own heat. And that's pretty much it. As I mentioned, here are the peripherals. So even if you look at the silkscreen, you can see that it's designed to sit like this. So as I mentioned, it's really designed to pull air up and out that way. So it is what it is. But so we have the connection mounts here, the modular connections here, silkscreen, peripherals and SATA connections, and CPU and PCI Express connections. As I mentioned, the fan, and it will essentially sit like this. And actually, I was incorrect earlier. When it sits bottom mounted, it'll sit like this because with the silk screening up in this, I was incorrect the first time. But essentially, it still holds that power supplies of old, or in older systems, were designed to help pull and exhaust the heat, whereas modern ones really are more designed to, especially when they're bottom mounted, you're essentially pulling air through a tiny gap if you're standing your case vertically, and then it's just pulling air in and then straight out that way. So it's actually not helping to exhaust air from the case itself, but I'll discuss that when I actually mount this in the case. But that's pretty much it. I know there's a lot of cables and everything around here, and normally if you do have, or if you're building more than one computer, I recommend leaving the extra cables in in your box. Keep the box, don't get rid of it, store the cables in there. It's far neater, or if you're very meticulous, big Ziploc bags. But that's pretty much it for the Corsair CX650M. All right, thanks for watching.